Hello everyone, my name is Tiffany. I'm the Tipsy artist. Today we are painting this beautiful dream catcher, and I always do a new one every single year to start off the new year. So this will help us dream big and set those goals high and just be very ambitious, and creativity is the first goal with that. So it's quite lovely, and this is one of my new designs for this year. So this is what we'll be looking at as we paint. I'll have this off to the side here. We're going to switch camera views here in just a moment and start the process so you can look at this close up. This is the line art that I provide that goes with it, and your whole painting kit. All the supplies that you need are on our website, tipsyartist.com. And let's talk a little bit about the transfer process first, though. So we do have the transfer paper here, canvas panel here, the line art's in front. We'll go ahead and just tape right up here at the top. Want to make sure that we can lift up and check your work as you go. And also super important, make sure that the shiny dark side of the transfer paper faces the canvas and the dull gray side faces up, and you'll be all set. That'll make sure that happens. All right, so we're going to go ahead and place this down here. I'm going to go ahead and switch our camera views. And there we go. Get adjusted here. Switch hats so my cowboy hat doesn't bump into the camera like I sometimes do. All right, and let's make sure we're good here. All right, so let's go ahead and talk a little bit about this, how to do this more. So we're on the transfer process still. You can take your pencil, this comes with your kit, just basically draw right over the top of the design, and then that will transfer to the canvas. And I did work ahead there, so that's what it looks like initially. I'm done with that, and so I can just lift this off. But again, you do want to check back and forth, make sure you get all that work done, because once you've lifted this off and separated it, then it's really hard to ever line it back up again. All right, so there we go. I can go ahead and just chunk this. Now I'm going to want to do a light wash of paint over this entire surface. So really important this time is this permanent marker technique, which I do in a lot of my paintings. So I'm going to go ahead and just outline again here, right over the top. Let's go ahead and do this whole shape. So I want to keep this in place and not lose all this work, because if I do that wash over it, if you just have the graphite line, it'll get covered up, but this will bleed through a little bit, and that's what we want. I'm going to go ahead and do all these as well. And mine, you will have a new permanent marker. I'm gonna take from whatever over here on the side. So mine are all a little bit loved and used. So I'm not even sure what this one would be like. This will also help you really see it very well on the monitor. And we're almost done with this permanent marker outlining, and then we'll start to do our color wash. All right, so we're good to go there. And place these off to the side. And then our supplies here. Yours will look like this when you get it. And got mine out here, so a little introduction. We have our, this is our mama brush and our little buddy brush, and then our little bit brush here. Make sure you get some water. That's the only thing not in the kit. Our paper towels, and then we've got our paint off to the side, a couple of plates here. And yours will be brand new. I've already got, looks like this to start with. And then I'm trying to use up some that I already have. All right, so I have a little head start here with some titanium white, lamp black here throughout the process, but I'm going to go ahead and use a little bit more of our ultramarine blue. We'll get some of that out. Nice big quarter-size dollop of that. And then a little bit of this cobalt blue. Emphasize dollop of that. Also some vermilion. And a little bit of this crimson red. All right, so I'm going to be using my mama brush, and we're going to pick up a nice big dollop of the white, little tiny touch of the ultramarine blue, mix those two together. And then I'm going to warm this up a little bit with a hint of turquoise, so I'm going to grab some Viridian. That'll make it a little bit more of a turquoise color. And then a little bit of white. That'd be a pretty color as well. I'm gonna add a little bit of water because I wanted that to be more of a wash over the top. And then I used up a lot of that ultramarine blue, so I'm gonna go ahead and grab some more off to the side so we can have that. So a little bit of water, a little bit of that turquoise, and we're just gonna start to wash this into the background. And if you like the look of just more of this and the ultramarine blue, you can just do some of that here as well. A little bit of water for that wash over the top. You can see how the heart is bleeding through beautifully. So you can still see it. Long vertical strokes here. A little bit more of that white and that ultramarine blue, a little bit of water, push that through. A little bit of water. And this is my ultramarine blue here more with just the white. And this was a little bit of that Viridian mixed with that ultramarine blue and the white. Gives it more of a turquoise feel. And then let's go ahead and start to just go more white here in the center. And white. Rinse out because we're going to start to migrate to that light pink. So a little touch of the white with our crimson. Put that in. And our white. It's going to be a little bit more hot pink, then push a little more red into it. Less white. And our vermilion gives a nice little coral color, so we're going to add a little bit of white to that. It's very pretty. A little bit of water. Let that flow into the space. Nice vertical strokes here, a little bit of water again. That vermilion and a little touch of that white. That in there. Again, adding a lot of water to help it really flow into the space. Pink in there. Right. All right. Really pretty. And the design is moving through just like we said it would. So good job on that. All right, so we rinsed out, we dried off. Again, we're working with acrylic paint here, so we want to make sure that you don't ever want to leave your brushes out with the paint on there. It will dry up and you'll have sticks instead of brushes, so always be careful there. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and do some little roses here in our background. So I'm going to take my little buddy brush, a little bit of white, little mix of this crimson that we had in the beginning. And I'm going to go ahead and just do like a little circle here. It's almost like a hint of a rose happening here. Another one here. A little bit of white there, lighten that up. The little half circles back and forth. A little bit more here. A little half circle, kind of fill that in. And I'm going to grab a little bit of some lemon yellow here. Have some of that nearby. I'm going to take my little bit brush. We're going to do a little bit of yellow, kind of sweep that in. Little half circles over the top here. These little rose shapes. And again, kind of sweep that in, little half circles, like a little parentheses onto each side. And here. Rinse out, dry off. Now we're going to take our white and we're going to do sweeping little like half circle to give that little bit of accent for the rose that goes around that shape. So a little half circle, take that around in a circular pattern around that rose shape. These are our little abstracted roses. Now we have those little abstract roses. We're going to let those continue to set up and dry here. Now I'm going to take my little bit brush. We're just going to work in some white into the white feathers. So our white feathers, we've got one that's down here. We're going to go ahead and work that in and just kind of touch that into that tiny little like parentheses strokes. Keep it feathery and light. Fill that in here. Kind of be light and loose around the edges. And again, we have another little light feathery feather. Light little strokes right over the top. There's a little white feather. And then one up in here. Beautiful. And then one in here. kind of hold the brush a little bit more over to the side, parallel to the canvas. That will give you a nice, light, gentle hand. Allows a lot more of that white paint to just really rest on the surface. A little bit here. Slightly feather that out. Light wispy strokes on the outer edge. Again, it kind of feels like you do a little parentheses, parentheses. Now I'm going to do one more here. Give a little bit of balance to it. All right, let's go ahead and rinse out. And I'm going to go ahead and work into some of this bright warm vermilion, just kind of in a pure state here. And work this one into this little shape. Here. It picks up a little bit of that white. That's really lovely. It has a nice mix in there with it. And again, just like those little tiny parentheses, over and over again, kind of bring it, taper it down to a nice fine point. Put a little bit of lemon yellow in there with it, brighten it up a little bit. Now we'll do this one. And little tiny parentheses, parentheses. Take that out to a point, nice fine point. A little bit of that lemon yellow and the white. Now softly come in around that shape. Light little feathery strokes around it. Beautiful. Now again, rinse out, dry off. Now we're going to come back in with our ultramarine blue off my fringe here. And start to do a few feathers with that color. It's very bright. And we're going to take this one in here. And again, that feeling of little parentheses. Lay that down on the side and lift off with a light hand. Picking up a little bit of white, and that's actually a really pretty thing. Has a nice soft blend in there with it. Again, little tiny short curved strokes that feel like you're making little tiny parentheses over and over again. And have a little hint of this ultramarine here, kind of peeking through. Rinse out. All right, let's do some a bit of burnt sienna here. Some yellow ochre. A little bit. Let's go ahead and take some of that yellow ochre and that lemon yellow. Bring that up a little bit. And I'm going to go ahead and take a little bit of that same stroke. I have a little one kind of peeking through here. And here. Let's see. I have a little one kind of peeking out in front here. Little one here. All right, and then let's go ahead and take some crimson red, a nice dark red, and I'm going to go ahead and hook that one into this here, this little shape. Again, short little curve parenthesis shapes. Little highlights there to that vermilion, a hint of that. And then if you want to do a little bit of some purple, you can mix that purple with our ultramarine blue and your crimson red and a little bit of white. And that's going to give you that purple. So you can have like a little tiny touch of that. All right. Now I'm going to come back in with my little bit brush here. We're going to do a little bit of this crimson red, tiny amount of white, because I want it to be more of a hot pink look. And I'm going to make this around the edge here. Let's grab a little bit more of that crimson. A little white with that. Rinse out, dry off. Now we're going to do white, light, light pink. I have this come into the center. And then we kind of swirl back and forth between the crimson. So, all right, now we're going to be doing a lot of little tiny stripes. We're going to start with little Buddy here. So we'll start with some of that crimson red, kind of push right into that color, just like that. There's little Buddy. And we're just going to start to place that. It's like little sections, little touches of this. Take this all the way around. So, and there's not a really, I mean, you just kind of space it, almost like you take a break, a little space the same size, and just come in. Doesn't have to be super perfect. There's no measuring with a ruler here. It's just kind of eyeballing it. Continue taking this all the way around. All right, so now we got a really great start there. Rinse out. And then we'll take little Buddy, and we're going to use some of this cobalt blue. And we're going to come in between with the cobalt blue next. So see, I think all those stripes look really intimidating to people at first, and then they do it and they go, oh, wow, this is pretty easy. It's like very fast. Just kind of whip it out. Little tiny short strokes. Okay. Now you can be minimal and leave it just like that. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to add a little bit of my white now, little bit, and we're going to just start to do little tiny stripes. Just like they're going to feel like little dashes here. All the way around. And I'm going to do a little clean out there because my white's losing its pureness. So I'm going to go ahead and a few wipes there as I'm picking up some of that wet paint. It's what causes it to lose the brightness of the whites. So I'll have to do a little touch there. Let's get these off the napkin. You can see I'm kind of doing a little rotation here on my napkin in between a few strokes to keep that white nice and bright. It's looking good. And then we've got some different colors we can start to move in. So we've got our burnt sienna here. So we can just do little strokes of that. Just kind of randomly. They're not as every other shade. It's just kind of random. Kind of place those little touches of that burnt sienna. Get that little hint of brown happening around there. A little more of a rust. And rinse out. Now let's pick up a little bit of this yellow ochre. Okay, a little bit brush. And we're just going to do little tiny touches. It pops a little bit more on top of the red. So I'm going to do it more over the top of the red, little tiny stripes here. Okay. Quite lovely. And now I want a little bit more of that viridian, a nice bright pop of viridian. So I'm going to take a little bit of that. Really bright. A little bit brush and some of that viridian. And we want just like a little pop of that. And every now and again here. All right. So that's looking pretty layered. You're welcome to just keep going nuts and adding more color. Let's do one more. Let's go ahead and do our vermilion, which is very much like an orange. So I'll do a little hint of that. Looking quite lovely. All right, so now what we're going to start to work on are the feather strokes. We're going to come in with a little bit in our white, and we're going to just do a little tiny tip there on the end, and we're going to drag a little very delicate line through the middle of the feathers, like that. And then off to each side, you just make thin little wispy of little diagonal strokes off to each side here. Always have that contrast. So we'll start with the middle line being white, really light and delicate, just kind of barely graze over the top. And then tiny little diagonal lines off to the side. Barely touch. Right now we need to come in over the top of our white with a contrasting color. So it's just going to be a little bit of light gray. So I'm going to do a little bit of this black, a little bit of white, and a little bit of water so it has a nice flow to it. Do a little twirl and get a nice fine point, and we're going to run that little line right through the middle. And then tiny little diagonal lines off to the side. That. A little bit of that string connection there. All right, it's looking really pretty. And then now we can do a little bit of that dream catcher, you know, the weave that happens. So again, your little bit brush, your white paint. I'm going to go ahead and get a new plate started here. All right, so this is part 2 of this painting, and it's now time to do some of the pattern work that comes in for our dream catcher. So I'm going to start with that. All right. So when I initially did this design, I did it kind of in a free-handed way, and I'm going to come in with a bit more intention and pattern this time. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and take my pencil to help us have a little bit of a guide initially. And so I'm going to start by making, it's going to feel like we're doing lots of little parentheses. We're going to start with the little parentheses from there to there. And then here to here, I'm going to do parentheses, parentheses, and then here to here, parentheses. You hear me say that a lot. That is definitely the shape of it. And then we're going to just try to keep it as simple as we can. So I'm going to continue to just make this all the way around here. Let's do one more here. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna bring this a little closer. You can kind of see. So it's almost feels like you're making like a little leaf shapes, but again, it's like parentheses, parentheses. And then if you want to make it more complex, you certainly can. You can overlap a little bit like here and here, okay? Or you can leave it simple like we had in the first place. But if you like the look of the overlap, then you can do that as well. So I'm going to do a few more here. Just like that. Now, there's a couple of different things you can do. I'm going to go ahead and start us off with the permanent marker. If you can just stick with this look, and if you like it black, you can leave it black, or you can come in with white paint and do a white overlay over it as well. But this is such a nice, easy way to do it, especially when you're dealing with these really thin lines. So we did our pencil here first, just in case. It's kind of a nice little, if anything goes wrong, then you can have the ability to erase and it's not so challenging. But you can see how we've got this black outline that's coming in over the top. And we're still able to see the design pattern behind it. Again, I am changing up the design a little bit here, but it's also very similar if you do this in white. you compare it to the first design. But I do want to show you how to do the black because it's quite striking like this. I think it's really pretty. And you might just want to leave it like this. Because we're still getting a nice look at our little roses peeking through. That we worked on at the beginning of the class. Okay. So that's a really fun, neat way to do that Dreamcatcher pattern. And personally, I prefer it now in the black. I've done it both with the white and the black. But again, either way, then you can do like little tiny, I'm gonna go ahead and do a little line around here that kind of firms up the shape. But using this little permanent marker is really nice for the process. Very easy. Have a lot of control. And then I'm going to go ahead and come around the outside here too. And again, this is much easier to do it this way as compared to trying to paint it all in. All about fun and easy for our beginners. So this is definitely helpful. All right, so very pretty. Now, there's some other things you can do here too. You can kind of add, little tiny lines to kind of add a little bit more to your feathers to kind of make that a bit more pronounced. Those little lines right through the middle. That's optional. Since I did that side, I'm going to go ahead and do a few more here. Side. Just kind of give it a little bit of symmetry. Really light touch there. All right. And then if this is something that you want to definitely paint in, remember to take your little bit brush and we're going to take a little bit of water. We're going to add this to our black and do that really nice fine twist. And then you can certainly do just what I did here, but with the paint. And my real, if you really want that painted look over the top of that, I would do it with permanent marker first and then paint over the top. So a lot of people can't tell at all the difference. I mean, it's so hard to tell, but just a little bit of that nuance with that paint right over the top really helps. Just come right back over it. I add a little light feathering at the end of those little strokes. Okay. And then rinse out. And one more thing that I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and outline the heart here in the middle too, just because I think I liked how it really looked around the outside. So I'm going to go ahead and do this part here too. All right, very pretty. And I'm going to give you one example to show you the white. So this was, again, was our, original here. And you want to do that white over the top. Take a little bit brush. I'm going to go ahead and work into the white. And a little bit of water here so that the paint is nice and fluid, very easy to maneuver here. And then you can certainly, if you like the look of more of the white here, you can come in over the top. Paint that more of that white. And that makes it, a little bit more subtle. And then that black behind it gives it a nice little shadow. Okay. Again, you can keep going and add more white like I'm doing here, or you can leave it as the pure black as we had it in the first place. You decide. So both ways are really lovely. Again, keep doing that little twirl in. Just follow along here. Keep turning. Just gives me better angles to reach. So add a little bit more water to the white, do that little twirl into the paint. Shape here. Just come right in over the top. And let's keep going all the way around. And we'll twirl into that white paint. Okay. And voila. Okay, and you can do more layers if you want to make it more saturated, but I'm really liking a little bit of that black shadow underneath. I think that's actually a nice touch. Me personally, that's what I'm going to lean into on this go around here. So a little bit of a softer touch this time with the whites. We have a beautiful pattern there. And then rinse out and then dry off. And then we can go ahead and just sign your masterpiece. I'm going to go ahead and do mine with my permanent marker here. All right. Good job. Okay, so there's that. Let me talk about one other thing here with like little bitty paint drips here too. So I'm going to take my little bit brush and let's go ahead and grab some white, for example. We're going to re-wet this white. I almost forgot to paint this. So this was like, oh, I signed, and then I thought, oh, I'm done. No, I'm not. So we have a little bit of some paint drip action. So in case you want to do this, here's how that would work. So I'm going to go ahead and just touch a little bit of this wet here at the base. This is some wet white paint as an example. I'll do some here and here. And here. Now, so rinse out here. And now I've got a full belly of water in my breath. I'm going to go ahead and just drop that into it. Actually, let's get a nice dollop of the white. Push that down right there. And we're going to just go ahead and we're pushing that water into it. And see, that creates the water running and the white paint. And turn the canvas in a vertical position. If it's not running, add more water to your brush and then continue to let that kind of drop down. And there we go. See, now we're getting some of those nice little drips. Okay, let's do another one here. Let's give it some symmetry. All right, and then I'm going to come back up here since this got a little bit distorted here at the bottom. I'm going to feather back out that little feather the feather and just kind of lightly feather that. And you can continue to add those paint drips in any of those colors that you like. And just add that little pull of water to it, add the pressure, of course, turn up in a vertical position, and then that will flow down your canvas. So there it is. Awesome. Beautiful painting here. Thank you again so very much for painting with us today. It's been so much fun, and we hope you'll have a beautiful rest of the day, and we'll see you soon. Much love to y'all. Toodles.